In tonight's Fact or Fiction, we are looking into yet another claim about The Simpsons predicting a big news event. The story this time is that the iconic TV show eerily predicted the outbreak of the coronavirus.
Predicting the future isn't easy, but The Simpsons have managed to do it with eerie precision. For over 3 decades, this animated show has presented fantastical scenarios that often mirrored real-world events in unsettling ways. From the rise of Donald Trump to the collapse of global economies, The Simpsons has eerily predicted major shifts in society. As we stand on the precipice of 2025, many of these predictions are closer to reality than ever. 1. The dystopian vision. In The Simpsons, the future is often depicted as a place where order is a distant memory. Episodes from past seasons have painted vivid pictures of a world teetering on the brink of chaos, with governments exercising an iron grip on power. As unsettling as these depictions seemed at the time, they're beginning to feel all too familiar as we approach 2025. One of the most alarming elements of the show's vision for the future is the concept of mass surveillance and totalitarian control. In the early 2000s, an episode of The Simpsons introduced the concept of a Big Brother society, where every action and every word was monitored by the government. At the time, this seemed like a far-fetched dystopian narrative. Fast forward to today, and this idea doesn't seem so out of place. With the rapid expansion of surveillance technologies and the increasing reliance on data to monitor citizens, The Simpsons' prediction now feels like a chilling prophecy. By 2025, we could very well find ourselves living in a world where privacy is a distant memory. Countries like China have already implemented social credit systems that track the behavior of their citizens, rewarding or punishing them based on their actions. In many Western nations, the proliferation of cameras, drones, and AI-powered surveillance systems is leading to an erosion of privacy. And it's not just government control that we need to worry about. The corporate world is also getting in on the act. With companies like Google, Amazon, and Facebook collecting vast amounts of personal data, the line between personal freedom and state control is blurring. The Simpsons showed us a world where this unchecked surveillance led to a loss of individual freedoms. Characters like Homer Simpson were constantly being watched by authorities, with their every move recorded and scrutinized. While this seemed far-fetched when the episode first aired, the rapid development of technologies like facial recognition and AI surveillance systems is now making it a reality. By 2025, it may no longer be possible to walk down the street without being monitored by both government and corporate entities. What happens when privacy becomes a thing of the past? Will people accept this new reality, or will there be resistance against this intrusion into our personal lives? As we move closer to 2025, these are the questions we must grapple with. The Simpsons' vision of a dystopian future may not be as far off as we think, and we may find ourselves facing a reality where surveillance and control have become the norm. As surveillance technologies become more advanced, will we allow our freedoms to slip away quietly? Or will 2025 be the year we fight back? 2. The climate crisis. The Simpsons has a long history of tackling environmental issues, and their predictions about the climate crisis are some of the most haunting. Over the years, the show has depicted natural disasters, environmental collapse, and ecological disasters on a scale that seems to mirror the real-world situation we are facing today. And as 2025 draws closer, the prospect of these predictions becoming reality seems more likely than ever. One of the most memorable episodes featured a flooded Springfield, where rising sea levels and uncontrolled weather patterns wreaked havoc on the city. This episode aired long before climate change became a household term, yet its portrayal of a world ravaged by extreme weather was eerily accurate. Today, we are witnessing the very phenomena that The Simpsons predicted. More frequent and intense wildfires, devastating floods, and catastrophic storms are becoming increasingly common. In 2025, experts predict that we will be living in a world where the effects of climate change are undeniable. Coastal cities are already facing the threat of rising sea levels, with many regions around the world experiencing floods, hurricanes, and other extreme weather events. The recent fires in California and Australia, the hurricanes that have battered the Gulf Coast, and the record-breaking heat waves are just the beginning of what we can expect in the coming years. As the planet warms, natural disasters will become more frequent, more intense, and more destructive. But what's even more terrifying is that The Simpsons didn't just predict the disasters, they also predicted the causes. In episode after episode, the show depicted a world where unchecked industrialization, pollution, and deforestation led to catastrophic environmental consequences. The show painted a picture of a society where greed and consumerism trumped environmental concerns, and the results were devastating. By 2025, we could be facing the consequences of our actions. If global governments and industries continue to ignore the warnings about climate change, the world will be forced to reckon with the consequences. Rising temperatures, unpredictable weather patterns, and the depletion of natural resources will reshape our world in ways we can't even imagine. The Simpsons warned us about this long ago, and as we approach 2025, we may find ourselves living in the very world they depicted. The question remains, how much longer can we ignore the warning signs? Will we change our ways before it's too late, or will 2025 be the year the planet's tipping point is reached? 3. The rise of artificial intelligence. In one of the most unsettling episodes of The Simpsons, the show predicted the rise of artificial intelligence and the potential consequences of machines becoming smarter than humans. At the time, it seemed like just another outlandish plotline in the world of Springfield. But as we approach 2025, the rise of AI is no longer science fiction. It's happening right before our eyes. AI has already started to infiltrate various industries, from healthcare to transportation to customer service. Self-driving cars are on the verge of becoming mainstream, and robots are performing tasks that were once reserved for human workers. By 2025, experts predict that AI will be an integral part of our daily lives, but it will also bring about significant challenges. One of the most significant fears surrounding AI is its potential to surpass human intelligence, creating a world where machines hold more power than humans. In the world of The Simpsons, this AI revolution didn't go smoothly. In one episode, robots became so advanced that they began to take over human jobs, pushing people out of the workforce and creating widespread economic instability. While this scenario might seem far-fetched, it's not so distant anymore. Experts warn that as AI continues to advance, many jobs will be replaced by automation, leading to job losses on a massive scale. By 2025, we could see entire industries rendered obsolete as machines become more efficient and capable than human workers. But the implications of AI go beyond job loss. The show's portrayal of machines gaining sentience and eventually overpowering humans is a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked technological advancement. Could AI eventually decide that humans are obsolete? Could machines take control of critical infrastructure, leading to widespread chaos? These are the questions we must ask ourselves as we move closer to 2025. The rise of AI presents both incredible opportunities and terrifying risks. As we continue to develop these technologies, we must ask ourselves, are we prepared for the consequences? Will AI become humanity's greatest ally or its greatest adversary? As AI continues to evolve, how far are we willing to go before we lose control of the very technology we created? 4. The collapse of the economy. The Simpsons have always had a knack for predicting economic upheavals, and their predictions for the collapse of the global economy are no exception. In one particularly haunting episode, the show depicted a world where the US dollar had lost its value, leading to widespread poverty, inflation, and economic collapse. At the time, this seemed like just another outlandish scenario. But as we approach 2025, the global economy is facing unprecedented instability. The rise of digital currencies, the shift away from the dollar as the world's reserve currency, and growing economic inequality all point to a future where the traditional financial system could be upended. Experts warn that by 2025, we could see a global economic collapse triggered by a combination of rising debt, economic inequality, and the devaluation of the US dollar. The Simpsons showed us a world where the collapse of the economy was not just a possibility, it was inevitable. In their vision, the wealthy elite controlled the world's resources, while ordinary citizens struggled to survive. Inflation spiraled out of control, and the value of money became meaningless. This scenario is becoming more plausible with each passing year as national debts skyrocket and the global financial system becomes increasingly unstable. Could 2025 be the year the global economy collapses? Could we see the rise of alternative currencies like Bitcoin or a global digital currency as the dollar loses its status as the world's reserve currency? And if the economy collapses, what happens next? Could we enter a new era of economic uncertainty, where wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few and the rest of the world is left to fend for itself? If the global economy were to collapse, how would you survive? What would you do if the dollar lost its value and a new financial system took over? 5. Political instability and the rise of authoritarianism. For years, The Simpsons has warned us about the rise of authoritarian regimes and the erosion of democratic systems. While many dismiss these portrayals as hyperbole, recent events around the world suggest that The Simpsons writers may have seen something that we didn't. As we approach 2025, political instability is becoming a reality in many countries, and the erosion of democratic institutions is a concern shared by experts and citizens alike. In several episodes, The Simpsons depicted political chaos, with elections being manipulated and democratic processes being undermined. In one memorable episode, Springfield's mayoral race was rigged, and in another, Homer found himself participating in an election that was essentially a farce. While these storylines may have seemed like satire at the time, today we are witnessing similar events unfold in real life. Across the globe, democracies are under siege. From rigged elections in countries like Hungary and Russia to the rise of populist leaders who challenge the very foundation of democratic norms, it seems that the erosion of political freedom is happening right before our eyes. As authoritarian leaders rise to power, the systems that once upheld democracy are being dismantled piece by piece. The most alarming part: this trend may only accelerate as we move closer to 2025. In many countries, democratic institutions are being weakened and people are increasingly skeptical of their governments. This political instability sets the stage for a world where democracy is a distant memory and authoritarian rule becomes the new normal. Could The Simpsons have predicted the rise of these authoritarian leaders? Could 2025 be the year that democracy as we know it is lost, with global leaders consolidating power and silencing opposition? The show has long warned us about the consequences of unchecked political power, and as we near 2025, those warnings seem more prescient than ever. Will we see the downfall of democracy in 2025, or will citizens rise to protect their freedoms? The future of political systems is hanging in the balance. 6. Space exploration and the search for extraterrestrial life. Space exploration has been a popular topic in both the real world and in pop culture, but The Simpsons took it a step further by predicting several key developments in space travel and the discovery of extraterrestrial life. In one of the most unforgettable episodes, the Simpson family traveled to outer space, where they encountered aliens, leading to hilarious and surreal consequences. While this episode was certainly exaggerated, the idea of contact with extraterrestrial life is one that has persisted in popular culture. As we approach 2025, the possibility of making contact with alien life is no longer confined to the realm of science fiction. Governments and private companies alike are investing heavily in space exploration. NASA's Artemis program aims to land humans on the moon once again, with a plan to establish a permanent presence by 2025. Meanwhile, private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are advancing space travel, making it more likely that humans will venture deeper into space. But it's not just about space exploration. The search for extraterrestrial life is gaining momentum, with new telescopes and space missions dedicated to finding signs of alien civilizations. In 2025, the technology to detect planets outside our solar system will be more advanced than ever, increasing the likelihood that we could find signs of life beyond Earth. If we do make contact, it would mark a historic moment for humanity, a moment that The Simpsons hinted at years ago. The most chilling part of this prediction is the possibility that our encounter with extraterrestrial life may not be as friendly as we'd hope. The show has portrayed aliens in various forms, some friendly, but many more are hostile, offering a darker vision of what contact with aliens could look like. Could we be on the brink of an intergalactic encounter that changed the course of human history forever? As the search for extraterrestrial life intensifies, will we find evidence of intelligent life in the cosmos by 2025? Or will we face an encounter that humanity is unprepared for? 7. How technology could widen the gap between rich and poor. The Simpsons often satirized the growing divide between the rich and the poor, particularly when it came to technology. Episodes depicted the wealthy having access to the best and most advanced technologies, while the lower classes were left behind. This gap between the haves and the have-nots seemed like exaggerated fiction at the time. But as we approach 2025, this divide is becoming all too real. One of the most significant challenges we face in the coming years is the growing inequality brought about by advancements in technology. Automation, artificial intelligence, and robotics are expected to transform entire industries, but not everyone will benefit equally. The wealthy will have access to the latest technologies, giving them a competitive edge in everything from healthcare to education to employment. Meanwhile, those who can't afford these innovations will find themselves left behind, unable to compete in a rapidly changing world. The Simpsons predicted this divide with their satirical portrayal of the wealthy elite using technology to control every aspect of society. In one episode, Mr. Burns used a robot to do his work, while the people of Springfield struggled to keep up. While this may have been a joke at the time, the reality is that by 2025, automation and AI are expected to displace millions of workers, particularly in industries like manufacturing, retail, and transportation. This technological divide could result in a new form of class stratification, where the rich control not only wealth, but also access to the latest technological advancements. The gap between the elite and the rest of society could become so vast that it's impossible to bridge. As the world moves closer to 2025, the question arises: will we create a future where technology serves only the privileged, or will we work to ensure that everyone benefits from these advancements? As technology continues to advance, will we allow the rich to control the future? 8. The collapse of global supply chains, a world on the edge of crisis. Global supply chains are the backbone of modern economies. They ensure that goods, resources, and products are distributed across the world in a seamless and efficient manner. But The Simpsons, with its sharp political and economic insights, predicted a future where these supply chains were at risk of collapsing. In one episode, Springfield faced a shortage of essential goods due to disruptions in the supply chain, a scenario that may soon become our reality. As we approach 2025, the fragility of global supply chains has never been more evident. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed the vulnerabilities in global trade as factories closed, transportation networks were disrupted, and entire industries ground to a halt. While the world has begun to recover, experts warn that the global supply chain remains fragile and future disruptions are likely. In the coming years, we may see more frequent and severe disruptions to global supply chains. Natural disasters, political instability, and technological failures could all contribute to the breakdown of the systems that keep goods flowing. By 2025, the world could be facing widespread shortages of critical items, including food, medicine, and energy. The effects of these shortages would be felt by everyone, from consumers to businesses to governments. The Simpsons warned us about this possibility long ago, showing us a world where shortages of basic goods led to economic chaos. As we near 2025, we may find ourselves living in a similar world, where scarcity is the new norm. As supply chains continue to unravel, how will we cope with a future of shortages and economic instability? 9. Technological surveillance and privacy invasion, a future we can't escape. For decades, The Simpsons have depicted a society where technology is all-encompassing, with surveillance becoming a part of everyday life. In some of their more prescient episodes, the show demonstrated a world where personal privacy was virtually non-existent, with government and corporate entities keeping a close eye on every move. Fast forward to today, and we're beginning to see the reality of this very scenario as we edge closer to 2025. One of the most alarming predictions the show made was the idea of a surveillance state where every detail of a person's life is recorded. In one episode, Springfield was covered by an ever-watchful network of cameras, where privacy was a luxury that didn't exist. While this may have seemed far-fetched when it first aired, the reality is now setting in. Surveillance cameras are becoming ubiquitous in cities around the world, with facial recognition software capable of identifying people within seconds. These technologies, which once seemed like science fiction, are now being used by governments and corporations alike. As we approach 2025, the expansion of surveillance technologies is likely to intensify. In many parts of the world, governments are already using facial recognition software to track individuals in public spaces. Meanwhile, tech giants like Google and Facebook are amassing vast amounts of data on their users, raising concerns about how this information is being used and who has access to it. The growing trend of surveillance not only threatens our privacy, but also opens up opportunities for abuse, with powerful entities having access to intimate details about our lives, behavior, and preferences. While many people argue that surveillance is necessary for security, others fear that it could lead to a loss of freedom. The Simpsons has warned us for years that this erosion of privacy could become a dangerous reality, where we are constantly monitored by the very systems that are supposed to protect us. By 2025, we may find ourselves living in a world where even our most private thoughts are no longer private, and where our every move is tracked and analyzed by corporations and governments. Could 2025 be the year that privacy becomes a thing of the past, or will we find a way to reclaim control? 10. The rise of corporate power. In several episodes, The Simpsons explored the idea of a world where corporations have more power than governments. From Mr. Burns' vast corporate empire to the corrupt dealings of multinational companies, the show often depicted a future where corporate greed dictated the fate of the world. As we approach 2025, these scenarios no longer seem like far-off fantasies. The growing influence of corporations over governments is a trend that has been building for years. In many countries, powerful multinational companies have become so influential that they can shape policies, influence elections, and dictate the direction of entire economies. The Simpsons predicted a future where corporations controlled everything from politics to personal lives, and as we look at current trends, it seems their prediction is becoming all too real. In 2025, corporations could have even more control over our lives than they do today. With the rise of mega corporations, the lines between business and government are becoming increasingly blurred. Many tech giants, for example, now have more resources than entire nations, and their influence extends far beyond the products they sell. These companies control vast amounts of data, and their lobbying power in government continues to grow. In the future, it may be impossible to separate the interests of corporations from those of the state. The Simpsons showed us a world where the unchecked power of corporations led to widespread exploitation and inequality. In one memorable episode, Mr. Burns manipulated the entire city for his own gain, and the show often satirized the dangers of corporate control. In 2025, we may find ourselves living in a world where corporations, not governments, hold the reins of power. From controlling access to resources to influencing the global economy, corporate giants could become the new ruling class. Will we allow corporations to take over our world by 2025, or will we fight back against the growing power of the corporate elite? 11. The collapse of traditional media, a world of fake news and misinformation. The Simpsons have long criticized the media's role in shaping public opinion, often showcasing satirical takes on how media outlets distort the truth. With the rise of social media, fake news, and misinformation, the show's predictions about the dangers of the media may have been more accurate than anyone realized. As we approach 2025, we find ourselves in a world where truth is often hard to come by, and the media landscape is more fragmented than ever. The show has depicted various media-related disasters over the years, from sensationalist reporting to the spread of misinformation. In one episode, the media manipulated the public by pushing a false narrative, and in another, the news outlets became so corrupt that they lost all credibility. These satirical takes on the media landscape were, at the time, simply humorous exaggerations. However, in today's world, misinformation is rampant, and news outlets are often accused of distorting the truth to fit political agendas. In 2025, the media may no longer be a reliable source of information. The rise of social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram has transformed the way people consume news, and while this has democratized access to information, it has also led to the spread of fake news. Conspiracy theories and false narratives are now shared widely on social media, with little to no fact-checking. With more people turning to these platforms for news, traditional media outlets are struggling to maintain their relevance. The Simpsons warned us about the dangers of media manipulation and the spread of misinformation. In a world where truth is subjective and news is tailored to fit specific agendas, it's easy to see how we could end up living in a reality where nothing is truly objective. By 2025, we could be facing a world where trust in the media is at an all-time low, and distinguishing fact from fiction is nearly impossible. As the media landscape continues to shift, how will we separate truth from lies? Will 2025 be the year that fake news takes over completely? 12. The future of health. In a particularly bizarre episode of The Simpsons, the show predicted the development of advanced genetic engineering and the possibility of extending human life through science. While this prediction seemed far-fetched at the time, recent advancements in genetic research and biotechnology have brought us closer than ever to making these predictions a reality. In 2025, we could see significant advancements in genetic engineering and life extension. Scientists are already making breakthroughs in gene editing, with technologies like CRISPR allowing them to modify DNA in ways that were once thought impossible. These advancements could lead to cures for previously untreatable diseases, but they could also pave the way for designer babies and the creation of genetically enhanced humans. While the possibility of extending human life is an exciting prospect, it also raises serious ethical concerns. If we can manipulate genes to prevent aging and disease, what impact will this have on society? Will only the wealthy have access to these life-extending technologies, creating a further divide between the rich and the poor? And what happens when we start to alter the very nature of humanity? The Simpsons explored the idea of genetic manipulation in a satirical way, but in 2025, the reality could be far more complex. With advances in biotechnology and genetic engineering, we may be entering a new era of human evolution. But as The Simpsons warned us, tampering with nature comes with consequences, and we may be opening a Pandora's box that we aren't prepared to handle. 13. The changing nature of work. Automation, gig economy, and job displacement. The Simpsons have long satirized the American work culture, often showing Homer Simpson's discontent with his job at the nuclear power plant. While these episodes were meant to be humorous, they provided subtle critiques of a future where jobs were increasingly automated and work-life balance was practically non-existent. Looking ahead to 2025, The Simpsons' predictions about work and the economy are unsettlingly close to becoming reality. As we edge toward 2025, the future of work is being redefined by automation and artificial intelligence. Advances in robotics and AI are already replacing jobs in industries like manufacturing, transportation, and even services. The concept of automation replacing human workers isn't confined to cartoons anymore, it's happening right now. For instance, self-checkout machines in stores, autonomous trucks, and AI-driven customer service are all examples of jobs that are being automated. By 2025, experts predict that automation will have reached even more industries. A report from the World Economic Forum predicts that around 85 million jobs could be displaced by automation within the next 5 years. These aren't just manual labor jobs, but also positions in areas like healthcare, finance, and administration. For many workers, the future could look bleak, with unemployment and income inequality reaching new heights. The traditional idea of a stable, long-term job may no longer be a reality for many people. The Simpsons warned us about this shift in work culture. Episodes like Homer the Smithers, where Homer temporarily takes over Mr. Burns' position, portrayed the consequences of workers being replaced or overworked due to corporate decisions. Homer's frustrations about his job reflect a wider cultural shift, one in which people no longer feel tied to a single job or company, but also no longer have the security or stability they once had. The gig economy could provide a future in which temporary work is the norm, but without the benefits of traditional employment. If you want to know more about the predictions and possible outcomes for the future, make sure to check out our other video.